Okay, let's shoot off. So welcome to the first Parenting Toolbox TV. I'm really excited to launch this today. I do apologise if I'm glitching a bit. I think my Wi-Fi is a bit on go slow today. But yeah, really excited, and we'll be doing these bi-weekly, so look forward to seeing you there. For those who don't know me, my name is Jane Kilpatrick. I'm a family expert and young persons and teens coach. And I also work really closely with parents to help them navigate those turbulent years that families do come across, but with the aim of hoping to make to help families to flourish and thrive. So that's basically me. So Liz, just briefly introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for introducing.
Over to you, Liz.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today at this lunchtime. My name is Liz Folan. I am a positive psychology practitioner and a coach. I'm a former teacher. I studied in positive psychology, having worked in classrooms for almost 3 decades. And as I was working, I was seeing mental health in both students, teenagers, that was my specialty, and teachers decline. That was all before COVID. And since COVID, it's got even worse. So I've written a number of programs, including the one behind me called Rise Resilience. And I go into schools and colleges, and I work with teachers, and I work with students. And we incorporate positive psychology techniques and implementations to help them manage stress and anxiety, but also to enable them to flourish, to empower them. So that's my role at the moment, and it's amazing.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you. And I'd love to introduce
I think we've lost you, Jane.
as you know, he's my husband.
I think
we just got you back again. We lost you for a bit there, Jane. Just as you were about to introduce Nigel.
So
Jim, we lost you for about a minute. So I just take on.
Yeah.
I think let me just. Because I'm your husband, I think I know what the plan is and what I'm in prep for. So hi everybody, I'm Nigel Kilpatrick. I'm full transparency. I'm Jane's husband, and I'm a champion of compassion in business. And Jane's asked me to come along today just to answer the questions about the links between compassion in business and the compassion in parenting, because both are one and the same. There's no difference, because we are just a human being at the end of the day, and having these different roles, one of which is being a parent and one is being at work. But Jane, you're back. You're fully on now. You're back.
Yes.
Don't know what you've done, but everything's sorted. Your picture's better. Your sound's better.
Wow. Amazing.
Hi, Barbara. Barbara. Thanks for joining us.
Barbara. So over to you, Nigel. Sorry, the champion of compassion in business. I don't know if you missed all that. And to be transparent, he is my champion. He's my husband. So over to you, Nigel.
Yeah, so I've just done a quick intro about what we're doing in terms of the link between the importance of compassion in business, but also in parenting as well, and some of the parallels between the two, because I was just saying that there's no difference between us as human beings. When we peel away the onion skin a bit, we are nothing but compassionate beings and energy anyway. So we have different roles in life, but compassion is who we are. So I just did that bit. So maybe you just want to start with the first question.
Yeah, I have a question actually, Nigel. I'd like to know how would you, if we're talking about compassion as parents, and obviously I talk to students a lot about that, teenagers, and all three of us have got teenage children, and I've got a 12-year-old as well. What would you advise to parents to help be role models of compassion for their children, and for me in the classroom when I'm delivering with groups of teenagers? Do you have any tips? And could you also define what you mean by compassion? So it's a two-pronged question, I suppose.
That's a great question, and if I can, I'll answer the second part first.
Sorry,
That's
I meant to ask.
the bit that most people find, particularly in my world of helping businesses and executives think through compassion, because most people think that empathy and compassion are the same thing, and actually they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, when people talk about compassion, they also think about, well, I'm a kind person, I'm empathetic, I have sympathy, and actually they're very different to compassion. And I've been thinking about this quite a lot, between how do we actually act compassionately as a parent, and translating that in my experience at work. So what compassion, empathy and compassion actually trigger different parts of the brain. So biologically and chemically, they're very, very different. So I think if I translate this into my world, but also I'm a parent, so I can't separate the two. Empathy is when I really am consumed by my daughter's pain and anguish, and I take on that pain and anguish, and I will do everything I can to protect our daughter from anything that's going on. And there's a slight dark side to empathy as well, because I can be over empathetic, therefore not allowing Josie to make the decision that she needs to make, because I'm going to make it on her behalf, because I want to protect her.
Mm-hmm.
However, compassion is very, very different. Compassion is actually empathy and sympathy with action.
Right.
So in empathy and sympathy, I'm very consumed by the feeling and taking on that other person's feeling. However, compassion has another side to it, which I'm going to take action on that. Now, action doesn't necessarily need to be a soft action. It actually could be quite a hard action. So in other words, I'm going to make sure that Josie has to make the decision on her own, or our children have to make the decision on their own without my intervention. Therefore, there's a good positive outcome for the child. So that is a compassionate decision that I'm making, but being continually kind and empathetic and sympathetic while our children are going through that. So it's very supportive, but most people get confused by empathy and sympathy and get caught in the empathy trap.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of kind of arguments can happen, kind of misconceptions can happen. So the things that I kind of say to people, in the business world, it's very translatable as being a parent. In fact, I've had to look in the mirror a lot and look what I've learned through my own journey. I try to implement when talking to not just our daughter, but also other people's daughter. Things like take the 10-second rule, which is, how often do we have the answer in our head when someone's asking us a question, we're having a dialogue as a parent? No, I know what I'm going to say. I already got the answer formulated. Even before our child's even finished speaking, we know what we're going to say.
But isn't it important for our children to actually not fail, but actually to learn from their mistakes? If we're not careful, we're helicoptering them the whole time. And actually, sometimes we need to enable them in a compassionate way, but to actually fail at things sometimes so that they learn.
And that is a compassionate act, allowing to experience failure. So not allowing to experience failure is the world of empathy, and the world of sympathy. Allowing them to learn from failure is compassionate.
Yes.
And
yes.
That's a really good point you made, and that's where we're at. So that's the crossover between the two. And I think as parents, we need to be really thinking more.
Exactly that. As parents, to accept that and acknowledge that and be compassionate to ourselves as parents, because we tend to beat ourselves up if our child doesn't do so well, or we think they're not achieving what others do. That comparison comes in. And that's when we really need that self-compassion to think we are doing the best job for our kids that we can do. Because as we say, parenting isn't is a journey. It's not that destination of they've got to succeed in this way. It's how we go along the journey.
That's why I asked you about role modeling specifically. I feel, Nigel, if we want to, and I really love what you said there about action. I haven't heard that before. So I love the idea of empathy being more passive, and it's okay to be there and to feel what they're feeling, or to feel what other people are feeling, not just our children. And the active bit, and action can be inaction, as you've said. So action is not, as Jane said, helicoptering and micromanaging. Inaction or action could be taking a step back and saying, you know, we're going to give you some space. You make that choice, but we'll look at way up. But I think, as Jane alluded to there, it's the worry of feeling not enough yourself. So what would you say about parents, or to any of us in all of our relationships, really, Nigel, if we're feeling that, you know, we beat ourselves up? We know that with negativity bias, we understand that, you know, some of the stats say that 85% of our thoughts are negative. So how do we challenge that from your perspective in a compassionate way?
Yeah, and I think you raised a point there, and again, it's Jane alluded to earlier, this thing called self-compassion, and it's really, really critical, because we just don't do it, because again, because we fall into the empathy trap, we feel that we are, and there's nothing wrong with empathy, by the way, we almost have it, we almost also will have sympathy and kindness, but those are tools, not a thing. And when we are feeling over empathetic, we are putting other people first. Therefore, we are not allowing ourselves to move towards being a compassionate parent, because we're not allowing time for ourselves, which is called self-compassion. And self-compassion is really, really important. And there are many benefits to taking the time for self-compassion, because things like it will stop the arguments that are going on, or stop the disagreements, or loads of things that are going on in our daily parenting lives. Again, I talked about that thing around just take that 10 seconds.
Yeah.
The reason why that 10 seconds is important is because when we have the answer in our head, there's a chemical reaction that's going on where we begin to get stress and anxiety happening, because we want to do this, we want to answer a question. If we just take those 10 seconds, for example, and in the business world, same thing. Someone could be coming to me with a problem, and I already have the answer, but actually, no, I need to, as Jay said earlier, allow that person to go through that problem to experience the failure and come out the side much better. So it's things like taking those 10 seconds, actually to allow myself to go, hold on, let me understand what the person's saying, what my child's saying to me. Let me reflect on that, and let me come up with a different way to respond. And having a different way to respond will actually reduce my anxiety and my stress. And if I'm reducing my anxiety and my stress, therefore, I'm going to be a happy person anyway. And actually, the outcome is going to be happier. So isn't that is a win-win? Now, these are hard things to realize, you know, because you're in the moment, right? You're in the frustration moment, and you just don't. So you've got to practice self-compassion all the time.
Right.
And there are other things like the yin and yang self-compassion exercise. And the yin and yang self-compassion is that you've got the yin, which is the female side, the yang with the male side, and you've got, you know, what can I do for myself to make myself, put myself in a better physical place for myself? What can I do emotionally that allows me to learn from my own experience, my own behavior? So there's a lot of exercises we do around that. But the other thing, to your point, Liz, which is really important, so we've got a whole yin and yang exercise that people go through, and they have to do a lot of self-reflection, but it's really important. And the other thing you talked about, which is actually, let's rate the behavior, not rate ourselves.
Yes.
And this is a self-compassionate tool, is because very often when we're having an argument or a disagreement or something just not going right with our children, or even as parents between parents, where the long shadow of that happens with everyone sees it, is we think we are that problem. We think we are the argument, or we think we are the fact that our child hasn't come back by 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock or something. We kind of think we are that problem, when in fact we are not. Because how can we be that problem? It's impossible, right? So we have to start measuring and analyzing and reflecting on the behavior of our thoughts, not so much being the thought itself. And that's a big exercise that helps people really calm down, have real kind of sense of less of anxiety and stress, which actually is a great thing. But also, sorry,
I think that's really important with self-awareness. I think as parents, it's taking on board that self-awareness and looking within ourselves and being kind to ourselves and not beating ourselves up about things that are external or that are happening externally, not taking that on board.
Can I say it really reminds me of a lot of the work that I do with character strengths. So Jane, you're aware of the work that I do with character strengths, taking the VIA character.org survey. But one of the key strengths that a lot of people get, because I work a lot with teachers, as I said earlier, is kindness. And your top five strengths tend to be, who you are, the essence of who you are. And they can move, but they tend to stay around the same. They might not be the first, second, third in rank order. But when you overuse kindness, like you were saying, Nigel, when you overuse kindness towards other people, that sounds to me a bit like the empathy trap, where you might not have very rigid boundaries for yourself and your own self-compassion, where you might be overstepping the mark and helping. But when you tend to be overkind to other people, you can be a bit more of a people pleaser, and you underuse kindness in yourself. So what we try and do in positive psychology is encourage people to explore how to get what they call, from ancient philosophy, the golden mean. So how can you use kindness towards you, but also towards everybody, other focused towards everybody else? And I think that 10-second step back is really vital from what I can tell from that tool is golden, actually, Nigel. I think that's a brilliant tool.
Thank you. Well, I think
Yeah.
Sorry. And another tool that I'm using this is quite an emotional one, but I think it's a very powerful one, and it's an exercise about self-reflection.
Right.
Now, when I'm training executives or business leaders, now when I talk about compassionate leadership is not a job title. It is action. So if you are compassionate, no matter what job title you have, no matter what level of person you are at work, you are, in my world, a compassionate leader. So I don't excuse it by thinking, oh, this is just an elitist thing. It's not. Compassion is a everyone thing.
Totally.
But it's all about that self-reflection. And, as like self-compassion, you can't be compassionate to anyone else unless you're compassionate to yourself. You can't allow anyone to trust you or you to give trust to anyone else unless you trust yourself. And the same with honesty. And I think for parenting, the first trait I have, which is all about this trust, but another parenting thing is honesty. And we want our children to know that we are honest. But what is the word honest? What is it really? It is not the fact that I can get you to believe the words that I'm saying. Honesty is consistency.
Yes.
Absolute consistency of thought and action. Because words are just thoughts. So can I be consistent in the way that I want to be with my children and everyone I interact with? And a great exercise, and I would ask, if you want to do this, it's a very great exercise to do. And it's about reflection. It's about write your own obituary.
Oh, wow.
And write your obituary on, the exercise is this. I'll just share it very, very quickly.
Right.
Anyone wants to do it. So the rule is just get yourself in a quiet space. Don't turn off your phones, everything. Get yourself in a very quiet space. Just go into some kind of meditative state if you can. Just concentrate on your breathing. Get very, very calm. Remove your distractions. And then start to imagine that you're at your own funeral. And the only people at the funeral, actually, in this case, will be your family and your friends. And in my world, say the only people there are the people you worked with, right? So they're the only people out in the congregation. So it's quite bad. But try and visualize it how you want your children to hear how you were as a parent.
Wow.
You're not allowed to write what you have done.
Right. Okay.
Only who you are as a person.
Whoa.
So you write this obituary about yourself, who you are as a person, and then just do some reflection. And actually, if your obituary, which I'm sure it will be, was like Nigel was such a kind person, he listened to everything. If I had a problem, he was there to listen. He never judged me. He always forgave, because forgiveness is such a powerful thing as a parent. We have time, I'll talk about that. But make this becoming your living document. Don't make it an obituary of death. Make it a living obituary and kind of refer to it as much as you can on a daily basis. Because it does link back into something else, which is this self-compassion thing about letting go of attachments every single day. And I've been really bad at this all my life. I've been really bad. I've been so stressed out all the time. The thing that I've learned recently through some spiritual work I've been doing is to really think about time. And when I'm looking at, if I get into a potential disagreement with someone, I really try and remember this bit. The moment that I'm in right now, in a second will be gone and never to be happened again.
100%.
The second that's about to happen will never arrive. So why am I worrying about the second that's about to never arrive? Or why am I attaching myself to the second that will never happen again?
Yeah.
So we have to really believe in the actual moment that we have. All we have in life is this moment.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say to all parents, do this. I call it the last thought, the first thought. The last thought before you go to sleep should just be letting go of all the stresses that you've had as a parent throughout the course of the day. And that includes the pressures and stresses that you've not of your making. And some of that could be because you brought them home from work. You've had a challenging day at work and naturally you brought them home. And that kind of, the long shadow of those are just affected everyone around you. But the last thought at night should be a positive last thought. It should be a positive thing, and just allow yourself to say, nothing that's happened today has been my fault. Nothing that's happened today I'm going to attach to, and nothing today, I'm going to forgive everything that's happened today. And then you will sleep better. And you do the same thing in the morning when you wake up. Today's going to be a great day. It's going to, it's not this kind of
really powerful.
Last thing, first thing. Last thing, first thing.
Yeah.
And don't, as parents, we put so much stress on ourselves because we judge ourselves all the time. We're constantly judging ourselves because of who and people might think we are as a parent, and there's so much pressure. If we just let go of all that, our relationships with our parents, with our children, would be much better.
I think as parents, our days seem so long, don't they, with youngsters that we're dealing with, and yet the years fly by. When you're at that end of, when they're turning 80, you think, where have those years gone? So, although you might feel the days are really long and tedious and whatever, it's about bringing that self-compassion in, that self-care to us as a parent. Because quite often we're always putting our kids first, our children first, they're the center of our world. But actually, what about us as a parent? They are eventually going to fly the nest and go. But actually, it's even along the way, along the route, it's keeping ourselves at the forefront as well, not just focusing. Because it's that analogy, isn't it, of the oxygen mask. If you're not taking care of yourself, how can you look after your children? So it's so important that we actually, take on board that self-care, that self-compassion, not beating ourselves up, forgiveness, as you say, Nigel, and just, and I think as a practice, that's where mindfulness comes into its own, being in the present moment, not focusing. Obviously we do focus on the future, we plan, but not wishing the time away or regretting. It's about being in the moment, and as parents we can only do our best, and our best is good enough. As long as those children feel loved and cared for, and we have that self-compassion for ourselves, then hopefully that's
also add
being a joyful journey.
Let me just add a thing as a stress reliever for parents in a self-compassion exercise thing, or just your daily kind of thought process about it. We should unattach ourselves from the way that we were parented.
Oh goodness, great tip.
Because that is a stress in its own right.
It is.
How we attach ourselves to it. So if we begin to learn, this is where Jane and yourself can really help, is giving the tools and techniques to unattach from the way that we were parented. But here's another great exercise to try, is when we're having a disagreement or an argument with our child, flip your shoes, which means put yourself in the visual, be your child looking back at you having this argument.
Right.
And what is it a child would expect from you in this conversation or this disagreement or anything that's negative, or even something that's very positive? I don't want to always say that parenting is always a negative thing. There's loads of great, wonderful things. But even that positive moment, how does the child want to look at you? It's almost like a arbitrary thing.
Yeah.
What's the take? How they're going to take that away? So remember what you were like as a child when there was a difficult situation or a positive situation that you were in with your parents. What were you thinking at that time? Yeah. What did you want from that? And so and as Jane said earlier, we get caught up in the daily traps of life. That can be quite difficult. And if we just have these tools and techniques to do that, and they're not complicated, we just have to remember to do them.
We do. That's the thing. It's living with intention. And that's when I talk about positive psychology implementations and a lot of the strategies I use in the classroom or with people one-to-one, it is about that. What are you deciding to do today that shows that you were voting for yourself? Now, for me, the takeaways I'm going to take from this conversation, Nigel, one of the things I'm going to do is the obituary myself. I'm also going to do it with groups of teens. And I'm going to do groups of teens, and I'm going to get them to think about it from the perspective of how their peers see them, but also how their teachers and how the school community see them. So to look at it from that perspective, and I think that will give them that level of distance where sometimes, especially there's a number of students I work with who might have anger issues or come from challenging backgrounds, and I think that could be a brilliant strategy. They don't even have to write it down; they could just talk into a phone.
That's great. Thank you for doing that. I would suggest perhaps you with the children, because they're in a fortunate situation. We're all kind of at the back end of our obituary life, right? But they're at the very beginning, so they could do one where they could pretend where they die at 25, die at 50, and die at 90, and then that will give them a long term.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they'll be able to visualize it then. That's the thing, because it's when it's far removed. But that's the whole thing about habit, isn't it? A habit change. You can be told at the age of 25 that smoking is bad for you and it does all these things. But when you feel invincible, you think, well, it doesn't matter, carry on. And this is why people get trapped in that cycle too. So it's being future-minded. Future-minded.
I'm just really conscious of this half an hour has flown by, and just wanting to look at your takeaways been brilliant. I love that flip the shoes as well. That's really good. And I think Vanessa on here said the golden me. That sounds like a fantastic tool. I'm conscious that we haven't been very good. Well, I haven't been very good at actually responding to any questions or first time round. We will get better. But yes, please do still put any comments into the comments boxes, and we'll get back to you. So if you have any questions, comments, or you want to get in touch, direct message us, get in touch. That's absolutely fantastic. And I'd just like to leave you with one thing as children mirror us, monkey see, monkey do. So it's about practicing what we want to be. So practicing what we want to become. So engaging with your children and encourage them to practice what they want to become. Even something simple as making your bed every day. Practice what you want to become. So those habits that you've just touched on, Liz, which we will be going deeper into along the series and episodes, but really starting, I think habits and discipline, and that discipline with self-compassion is so important. Let's start being kinder to ourselves in bringing in that self-care. So thank you for joining us today. Nigel, thank you so much.
Nigel, that's brilliant.
Stress off you today.
Well, good luck and congratulations on your new bi-weekly Parenting Toolbox TV. It's fantastic. And,
I think we've got quite a lot to say. It might become a weekly thing, but we'll see how things go. Yeah. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's been amazing.
Thank you. Nigel, I've got some serious workable tools there. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, I've got loads more if you need. Just reach out.
We'll have him back on again, Jane.
I think we will. I can grab him anytime. That's fine. So really good to see you all. Thank you.
Yes, lovely to see everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.